welcome back to my reviews of my favorite Transformers cartoon ever, Beast Wars. In today's review, we're taking a look at the episode, The Spark. A very important episode in Transformers lore, because in this episode, we are introduced to the concept of the spark, something that would become part of the Transformers lexicon from hereafter, as well as the debut episode of everyone's favorite bird girl, Airazor. Can't forget about her. We begin this episode with another Stasis Pod descending to Earth. And I like how Megatron basically does his equivalent of tapping someone on their right shoulder when you're actually on their left. I also like how in this brief little exchange, we get our first inklings of Tarantulas' ulterior motives. Trying to be quiet when tracking the Stasis Pod, looking nervous, and wanting to go secure it himself. All hints at Tarantulas' schemes in the upcoming episodes and seasons. Rhinox just happens to be in the area with these Energon geysers? Okay. Where he spots the Stasis Pod. Pretty lucky that he happened to be in Predacon territory, huh? Chidor also spots the pod, but he's further away. And he radios Cybertron to inform everyone back at the base.
Inform base, then head for my position. I may need backup.
It's done. Watch yourself, little cat.
Always do, big cat. Chidor out.
Aww, I love Chidor and Cybertron's big cat, little cat dynamic. They're like brothers. It's so cute.
There it is. Just as Megatron said.
Just as Megatron said. Just as Megatron said. Don't you ever get tired of groveling to that saurian?
I believe only two things. The Decepticons will rule Cybertron, and Megatron will rule the Decepticons.
Rhinox moves his butt and gets to the pod first. Unfortunately, the pod itself is damaged, and not in the most ideal location for an exposed protoform. By the way, this is our first look at a spark in Transformers.
Spark fading. Repair required or protoform will cease to exist in 8.6 cycles.
No.
Apparently Rhinox has a tool belt hidden under his Rhino skirt. Who knew? Chidor arrives to assist Rhinox. Meanwhile, Cybertron comes across Scorponok, who he freezes in mid-transformation like Sub-Zero.
Where you headed in such a hurry?
I'll tell you nothing, Maximal. Scorponok! Terrorize!
Cybertron, you know that's a major faux pas, right? Even if they're your enemy, you never interrupt another bot's transformation sequence. It's just bad manners. But he is soon punished for his rudeness as Black Arachnia paralyzes him with her cyber venom, which sounds like either a character from a 90s comic book or somebody's Xbox Live gamer tag. Chidor donates a chip to help the protoform. A circuit chip, not a potato chip. This is where, in Chidor's dream, vision, whatever, that we are given our first lore of what a spark is.
The very thing which makes us what we are. Every Cybertron, Maximal or Predacon has one, and each is different.
It's a little weird that Rhinox refers to Cybertronians as simply Cybertrons. I think this might have been a flub by his voice actor that slipped into the show. Or maybe Cybertron really is short for Cybertronian. Although that's pretty weird if you have the same name as your home planet. Also, coincidentally, in Japan, Autobots are called Cybertrons. So who knows? Maybe Rhinox was going by the Japanese name. Rhinox stabilizes the protoform, and we see its liquid metal frame change to solid. Hey, come on guys! Have some decency, will you? All her naughty bits are exposed there. At least cover them up with some black bars or something. While Rhinox stays with the protoform, Chidor goes to fight Black Arachnia.
By the way, how do you dance with all those skinny legs?
Chidor, ladies and gentlebots, the creator of negging. Black Arachnia has the upper hand on him, but apparently Chidor isn't just fast on his feet, but also on his back. Giggity. And he catches Black Arachnia's dart and throws it right back at her. But as soon as he finishes her off, he's then double teamed by Waspinator and Terrorsaur. Rhinox's circuitry is damaged while uploading the correct programs to the pod. And after a close call, the new Maximal is born, Airazor. And in typical new character fashion, the show gives us a brief overpowered demonstration of her abilities, as she takes on and takes out Terrorsaur. Don't worry, despite being blown to bits, Terrorsaur somehow survives.
They'll be salvaging Terrorsaur for days.
And so, Airazor is introduced to the other Maximals. That is, except for Dinobot for some reason. Maybe he was out on a scouting mission? It is disappointing that Dinobot and Airazor basically never interact. I can't think of one time where the two of them ever met. Which is thankfully something that Kingdom rectifies, kinda, but of course that is an entirely different continuity.
My pleasure, though I'm still not sure what to make of all this.
Yeah, if you're smart, you'll make tracks.
Title drop. Oh wait, wrong episode and series. Seriously though, what is with the misogyny, Rat Trap? I'm starting to think that maybe you don't like girls after all. Thankfully, the rest of the Maximals are much more welcoming to their latest edition. Optimus? Optimus? Where are your optics looking? Are you staring at Airazor's butt? Please, try to look respectfully. You are the commander after all. You need to set an example. Well, this was another great episode of Beast Wars. Obviously, it introduces us to the whole concept of sparks. Something that would continue to be a part of Transformers lore for decades to come. Sparks would be a huge part of Beast Machines, as the Maximals and Megatron battled over them and for the fate of all of Cybertron. In Robots in Disguise, Megatron would use his own spark energy to corrupt the Autobot protoforms and turn them into Decepticons. In the Unicron trilogy, we had numerous references to sparks. When Smokescreen died, apparently his spark survived, allowing Red Alert to build him a new body and become Hoist. In Energon, basically every character had a spark crystal, which presumably represented their actual spark, and is where the Energon chips would attach. And in Cybertron, the goal of the series was to collect the Cyber Planet keys in order to use the Omega Lock and restore Primus's own spark. In the movies, we had multiple references to sparks as well. Optimus Prime planning to sacrifice his own spark in order to destroy the Allspark and keep it out of the hands of Megatron. In Revenge of the Fallen, we had the triplets, RC, Chromia, and Alita 1, three fembots who shared one spark. And of course, in the same movie, we had Jetfire pull out his own spark so that Optimus Prime could use his lifeless corpse as a jetpack upgrade. And then of course there's Galvatron, who apparently lacked a spark completely. As we just saw in my last review, the Transformers in animated also have sparks, and occasionally reference them throughout the series, with some characters, like the Dinobots, being granted sparks through the power of the Allspark, even though not originally born of Cybertron. In Prime, we have Megatron infusing Dark Energon directly into his own spark. And the series concludes with Optimus Prime sacrificing himself once again, this time to unite the Allspark with Cybertron, and giving birth to a whole new generation of sparks. In the most recent series, Cyberverse, we also had a number of references to sparks. Most notably is when Shockwave uses his own spark to corrupt the Allspark, forcing Chidor to sacrifice himself in order to cleanse it. And of course, there's the comics, which I can't really speak to too much because I really need to catch up on a lot of them. But I know they introduced the idea of 0.1%ers, extremely rare and powerful sparks that belong to characters such as Optimus Prime, Megatron, Six-Shot, Tarn, etc. Even just in this series, we have similar variants of sparks, such as immortal sparks like those of Starscream and Rampage, Optimus Prime Spark, which supposedly also contains the Matrix? But that's a whole discussion for another review. And even later in this series, we'd see Sparks begin to demonstrate supernatural powers. All of this stemming from Beast Wars and this episode. Of course, there's also Airazor, the first female to join the Maximals. Although not in Japan, where she was actually a boy. Which means that when she, or rather he, and Tigatron started getting romantic in the series, that basically made them the first gay couple in Transformers. But as a boy or a girl, I absolutely adore Airazor. I love her design, and her relationship to the other Maximals is really interesting. I kind of see Rhinox as her surrogate father. Or is he her mother? Since he did work so hard to basically give birth to her. Rhinox definitely went through some labor pains in this episode. And then there's Chidor, who gave a piece of himself in order for her to live. I kind of see him and Airazor as brother and sister. But if Chidor and Tigatron are also brothers, then wouldn't that make Airazor and Tigatron brother and sister too? Probably best not to think about that too much. Also, I wonder what would have happened if Rhinox didn't get to the pod first. Or not at all. What if he wasn't in the area? It was Predacon territory after all. So what would have happened to Airazor if it wasn't for Rhinox? Would her spark have perished? Or would she have been turned into a Predacon? What do you think? Well, let me know your thoughts on this episode of Beast Wars down in the comments. Remember to like, share, and do all that other fun stuff. And I'll see you back here next week for the next episode of Beast Wars, The Trigger. Yes, another very interesting episode. Or should I say episodes, because this is actually a two-parter. So be sure to come back next time for that.
When a spark goes online, there's great joy.